Hope that worked for everybody to see what we saw. Welcome everybody to a really exciting moment in the Smart Building Certification story, where we get to start to talk about some of the case studies and some of the first buildings that we've certified, which is just yeah, it's an honor. And I have two people here today to speak on behalf of their projects. I have Michael Peeters, who is running a facility management company that's very specific on digital, managing the company in a very smart way with smart technology. And they manage Fosbury and Sons in Brussels, actually across their entire portfolio. But the building we focused on, the space we focused on was Albert. It's a building in Brussels. And then we are talking about just the space that Fosbury and Sons manages or owns or operates. And I think it's a really nice case study because it shows how the Smart Building Certification can work for one space within a larger building. And then we have Milos Halecka, but I definitely butchered his name. I'm going to let him introduce himself as well. From Middlecap, which is a little bit of a different view on it, different stakeholder approach, but it's an investment firm that is building and investing in buildings. And they have recently, they're about to finish a building in London, which is called Southworks. And Southworks is an amazing technical building. It's also amazing in a lot of the other ways that they've developed it. And so I'm really excited to bring him on stage in a moment to also talk about that case study and to learn a little bit about what they've done. Anytime throughout this session, if you have questions, if you want to put them into the field, we'll field them as we go. And we'll just facilitate this discussion in that way. So I'd first like to invite Michael onto the stage to talk to us about Lammp, talk to us about Fosbury and Sons, talk to us about the building. And we'll start with letting you introduce yourself. I probably butchered it in a little way. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Let us know what you, if I missed anything.
No, for sure not. Thank you very much for the introduction and the opportunity to be here, of course. So I'm Michael Peeters, CEO and founder of Lammp. Lammp is an acronym for Life and Asset Management using PropTech. Very important is that we use PropTech. So we're not a PropTech company making software or whatever. We use what is available on the market and we try to combine what we need into a solution for our clients. That is what we do, as we have done for Fosbury and Sons in Albert, amongst others.
Very interesting. And I think I want to touch a little bit on what it means to be an asset manager, a property manager with property technology, because I imagine not all buildings meet your need as far as how you guys do your business. So that's an interesting one.
Well, for sure not, but we try to prepare. Also, the mindset is changing. When we did this like 5 or 6 years ago, people were like, well, all the data, it's just toys for boys. It's not really adding any value. But now that we see we can actually make our decisions based on data. So we are kind of data driven. We're not completely data driven, but we're data driven. And from that data, we can optimize. And where we used to have feelings about things, now we can actually go and see, okay, what is going on? How can we optimize? And we can also much better than before see the effect of investments. And again, and that's also why I like the certification. Smart isn't about technology alone. It's not about sensors and putting up as much as possible. It's really about, well, sustainability. It is about social interaction. It is about how do you get people to interact with the building, respect the building, and make life in it better. And that's what we try to facilitate. And PropTech for sure is a way to, well, make people meet, get some insights and optimize services. And from that, the environment and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, fantastic. So when you came into contact with Smart Building Certification and you started to explore what it was, hope for? What was the goal for you and your organization when you thought about certifying smart building certification?
Well, for us, we get the question a lot like, can you make our building smart? And one of our first responses is then, yeah, what do you mean with smart? Because there's not really a clear-cut definition. I'm also an academic from scholar practitioner. I cannot pronounce it, but everybody knows what I mean. So I also do some research on an academic level. And even there, it's not really clear what we mean by smart. And what I hoped from the certificate was that it was not purely about technology, because then it gets just, well, in the way of the really important things and processing the data and doing something with it. It's just about collecting as much data as possible, and that is it. So I hope that that was not going to be the case. And then a way of assessing and making that comparable. That was an important point to guide us through development. As you said, not all buildings are fit or are fit out with the necessities to gather data and to get the insights. And where do you focus and where do you start making things smarter? And we hope to find that in the tool.
All right. And how did you experience the process, kind of the methodology? Did it meet that need based on what you saw?
Well, for sure. What I find the most important part is the peer review. So like in academic publishing, you have people you don't know reading your paper, assessing that one, giving you feedback, making it better. And it's not the one person's opinion. It's really more like a complete cycle of people giving their inputs with the best intentions, trying to make your building better, more smart, more sustainable. And I think the peer review is very powerful. I also like the idea that I don't know who's reviewing it. That makes it more honest. And well, and also it really helped us also think about things. Even we know the building very well. We took a building we know, so that we can also assess the outcome and see, okay, does that match what we know, our feelings about that one? And it really matched perfectly and even went beyond. It really gave us some ideas about, okay, this is for sure something we knew we were lacking, but we didn't know that, well, that was that severe, that we really needed to take some action on certain points. So that for that it would really achieve this goal. And also the questions are open enough so that you can actually, well, go around and give it your own interpretation, but then again, strict enough so that you know, well, that it's still accessible. And I think that's very, very important and a very powerful thing. We see it more like and we also going to try to use it more like a design tool guide than actually a certification tool. Okay, the certification will be nice and it's for sure important to make it comparable and all that. But for us, it's more like a design tool for now, where we really go and see,
Yeah.
okay, let's think about that one because it's clear from research that, well, the focus is on those topics.
Well, and with smart building being where it is in its maturity, smart building is coming to fruition now as an industry and as a concept and as buildings. So the smart building certification is built in a way that it does have some of that ability to tell that story and to really, see the uniqueness of what a building is doing. I just want to say a few things about Fosbury and Sons. It was gold rated, which is fantastic. It is doing some phenomenal things in climate and performance, but in one way that is linked to the larger building that it's a part of. So there is some opportunity that we saw within the certification to improve some of those collaborations, which is only a good thing. But then, of course, where we see them excel completely was in the user behavior, the user interaction with the space, the experimentation that Fosbury and Sons is doing with how to make things better and more productive for the people that are using it. I mean, Fosbury and Sons a flex working ecosystem, similar to what you would see with a WeWork or one of these other flex spaces. So that was just amazing to see in the certification that that you all, as the property managers, together with them, were doing such innovative things to push the needle forward with user interaction and user behavior. Really nice.
No,
And
also very nice that the tool is not that strict that you cannot put it in there. It's not like yes or no
yeah,
questions. No, it leaves you space to actually go and add initiatives yourself, which are also appreciated by the peer-reviewed group. So that's very interesting.
yeah. And so what is your hope for what comes next with the certification?
Well, I hope that it stays honest, as we can.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's very important because, well, it's
absolutely.
very strange to go and predict, we are gold, and then everybody knows that if you put 10,000 euros on the table, then it will be gold. So that's something we really hope that it can be clear, clean. Um, and I hope the peer review can only expand, also that new initiatives are more explicitly taken into account, because that will also help us in our design process, using those Christians guiding us through processes, amongst others, of course. So that's for me a hope. And well, then I also hope that it gets an international level where we can really compare the smartness of buildings amongst each other, like Priam does and Lead does, where you can have, well, some insight, and that it gets really, from an investment point of view, interesting to have the certificate and know, okay, there is a level of smartness and it's comparable, and that's to me
Yeah.
interesting. Well, and of course, next to that, but that's the side of the certificate, that, well, buildings get more smart and more sustainable, of course, and that we also get it into action and start using the data for good. That's what's important, of course.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. I think just to talk to your points about, the honesty and making sure that it's progressing in the way that we all hope it does. That peer review model is so important. Absolutely. And we took it from academia, where that's where it came from, where research papers are being peer reviewed by multiple authors, multiple editors, and the certification really needs to continue to do the same. And then I think the other really interesting part is to observe the opportunities for that improvement that you're talking about, and making matches and making getting people in contact with the people that will support them to move that forward. And what we've said in the certification is we don't want a sort of pay to play structure, where if you put that 10,000 on the table, we'll connect you with all these projects. No, we want it to be more of an open marketplace where you can have multiple opinions, and then you can make an informed decision based on research, based on the discussions with individuals and organizations. So my hope is that we really see some improvements that we do together. I can't wait to do the next building with you.
For sure.
Congratulations on what we've done so far and all the hard work you guys have put in. But we'll keep the conversation going.
For sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm going to bring Milos onto stage, and then Michael, maybe if we have time at the end, we can bring you back on for a couple more questions from the audience if they may have them. Milos, do you want to join me? Hello.
Yes, I'm back. Hi.
Nice to see
well?
you. Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? That's
Yes,
the
everything
pandemic
works.
talk, right? Yeah. So I
Yes,
want to start real
exactly.
quick with you. I want to start with you and just mention to the audience what we're talking about. Middlecap has just developed just a phenomenal building in London, and I have to give you guys my hats off to you all, called Southworks. Southworks has the first B-grid infrastructure in the UK. A lot of the property managers that are looking at this building are saying it has more technology than buildings quite, twice the size. It's just phenomenal. And what we certified it as a core and shell because it is a new development. It hasn't been occupied yet. So we really look at the technical infrastructure and how well it's positioned to accept tenants coming forward. And what we were just kind of blown away by in this core and shell case was that the technology for human interaction was, you guys took it so far, because most of the time with core and shell, the human interaction part would be a fit out discussion that is done a little bit later down the road. So, this is what really drove a lot of the certification, the amount of technology, the scope. It really hit on every single theme that we spoke about, and that user interaction just threw it over the top. So Southworks was awarded a platinum certification. It's only one of 2 platinum certifications in the world that we've given, which is just, again, hats off to you. Congratulations. But what I wanted to kind of have a little bit of a similar discussion. What did you hope for when you came in touch with smart building certification, and what was your initial kind of reasoning for pulling the trigger to do certification with us?
Well, let me start maybe a bit wider. Why did we decide to build smart buildings? Because we are a young company, and this is our first project in London. So basically, we wanted to demonstrate what's our basic or core principle of delivering buildings to the market. And from my personal experience, I spent my whole professional life in IT, working with customers from industries like telco or banking, where having data, or as much data as we can, and using them for building a better product is a key to success. So when I moved to real estate industry 5 years ago, I was really surprised about how much we don't know. Basically, it was it's been said that real estate is still one of the last non-digitized industries, and I saw that because usually people were not able to answer questions like how many people do we have in a building, like what's the temperature here and there, and basically how does the building perform. So then we realized that we need to change that, and not just because it's really fancy to build smart buildings now, and the word is really overused in last years, but it's something we need to do. So to build smartness into our project, it's not like to have some fancy things on top of what we are building, but this should be the core. So we have decided to build smartness into every new building we will deliver to the market, and so this is no-brainer for us. But the second question is then, okay, everyone is using the word. When you search for smart buildings on Google, you will get millions of hits. So what does it exactly mean, and how should we translate these words for our to our customers? So basically, we were looking to find a comparable measurement where we can compare our technologies in the building with something which is translatable to the human language. Meaning, we can put lots of technologies into any building, but then we will need to able to present the value of those technologies to, in my opinion, 3 groups of people. First are the potential tenants. So if you will move to our building, what exactly does it bring you? How your employees will feel in our building? What air quality can we deliver them, and so on and so on? How much will you pay for electricity? Is it sustainable or not? Then we've got the employees themselves. and we need to be able to explain them, okay, we've got lots of these sensors all around, but what exactly do these sensors for you? How can you be sure that the air you're breathing all the time is good or not, and so on and so on. And the last part is a group of investors, because we are a real estate developer. So we will need to be able to answer the question, okay, why should I pay for all these technologies in a building? And we will need to be able to say, well, first of all, the building is future-proof, because if you will need to change something in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, it does not mean you will have to, turn away all the wires and change them for something else. But we need to be able to say, you will just unplug the current sensors and put them, the new ones, which will be on the market in 10 years, because we are building on some general technology components, which will be here for coming next, 10 or 15 years. So, and it should translate into the value of the building and the costs of operating the building. So back to your question, after this, wide intro, the reason why we are certifying our building was that we wanted to be able to prove that all these technologies make some sense for the end user, and this is exactly how the certification was built. So I won't repeat everything what Michael has said, because I agree in everything what he said, but this was exactly the framework which we used not only to certify ourselves or to get some confirmation that, yes, you did a good job here and there, but also to see a bigger picture and to also find some areas for future improvement for us, because this peer review, which was mentioned a few times, was really good feedback for us to be able to think about the next project and to find these gaps which are still open to delivering new platforms for us.
Phenomenal. And so what is your hope for what comes next?
I think that what I really appreciate is to be in contact with other developers or operators of buildings which are certified, because we can learn a lot from them. So the difference between Michael's project and ours is that we are building a core and shell building, right? Shell and core. And so we are not able to estimate or to evaluate the people interaction within the building, because this will come up later. What we could do is to build a base for any kind of request which our future tenant can have. So as you mentioned, we've got sensors which are able to get people's presence, people's movement, and so on, and then use the data for some analysis. But it's really good to have this information exchange with someone who operates the space, and we can learn something from him, so we can then better prepare for future tenants needs. So
and I would say you should talk to Michael, because Michael is facility management from smart perspective. But
yes, exactly.
That is such a goal of the ecosystem as well, right? Is that the smart building certification looks at smart from end to end. It looks at the entire ecosystem. And then the goal is to break down all of these silos, because what we see in buildings is they're either focusing on sustainability, or they're focusing on health, or they're focusing on another concept. And they should be looking at it holistically, very much so like what you all did with Southworks. And once we can break down those silos, then we can get that free flow of information and discussion much easier with the collective. Really nice.
Yeah. Maybe one thing I would like to add, because it was as a person with the IT background, it was really valuable for me, because these days when you look at the other certifications for real estate which are on the market, like BREEAM, WELL, and so on, well, there is technology component in each of those. Because if you want to measure the air quality, you need to have some sensors and you need to collect the data somehow and analyze those. But there is like the operational component of this platform. So we need to ask questions like not only if you collect the data, but also how future-proof and how operationally complex is your infrastructure for getting the data. And this is exactly where the smart building certification stands out, because it's focused also on these things which are usually like hidden behind the answer that yes, we are getting the data. So really questions around replaceability and so on and so on. These are really important, not only for the investors into buildings, but also for the tenants. So the operational part.
Yeah, really nice, really nice. And actually, I don't think we have any time. We maybe have 2 or 3 more minutes before they kick us off. But Michael, I don't know if you want to come back on. I don't know if there's any questions. We don't see any questions from the audience. But thank you guys so much for your time and giving people a little bit of insight into what you've learned and what you've done. And what's really interesting is if you look at the 2 cases, I think, well, first of all, they're completely different. They're different asset classes. They're different, operable process. But, with you and Southworks, Milos, really, telling that story is so important. And letting the users and the property managers know what that building is capable of is going to be the next challenge, opportunity to make sure that it gets used to its potential. Absolutely. And I think with Fosbury and Sons, it's about, squeezing more of that potential out of it even, because it's already doing so much, but, getting the most out of it. Thank you all so much. And to the audience, thank you very much. This was our first case studies, and we'll be back with more, I'm sure. Take care, everybody.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.